Eli Conrad gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles whitened as he parked outside the house on Briar Lane, a house he'd only ever visited for holidays and family dinners, back when his cousin Darren was alive, and laughter still felt like an honest sound. Now the house looked different. Not just because of the trim hedges and bright white shutters Lauren had installed after Darren's death, but because something about it felt hollow, like a museum of someone else's life. The air was cool and damp, typical for a spring evening in Maine. Eli stared at the porch lights for a long moment, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. If he closed his eyes, he could almost remember how this street used to sound in his childhood. Kids playing basketball in the cul-de-sac, Darren's wild laughter echoing over the lawns, their mothers calling out for dinner. Now, every window seemed shut against the world. His phone buzzed. "Thanks again for this, Eli. Benny gets so anxious if I leave him alone. You're really saving me. Enjoy the peace and quiet, Lauren." He let the message sit unread. "Peace and quiet," he muttered. Sure. Lauren's request had been unexpected, if not downright suspicious. She'd shown up at his apartment 2 days ago, unannounced, dressed in yoga gear, and flashing the same bright smile she'd worn at Darren's funeral 11 months ago. He'd always thought she was beautiful, cool, blonde, and calculated, the kind of woman who knew how to dress for the moment and how to fill a room with easy charm. But lately, there was a harder edge to her, like she was running out of patience for the act. She hadn't come to reminisce. "I need a huge favor," she'd said, breezing past him into the kitchen as if she owned the place. "The spa in Crescent Springs finally called with an opening, and I need a few days to myself, Eli. Milo's at a friend's for the weekend. The house will be empty. Just check in on Benny. He's so old now, he gets nervous at night. It's 3 days, tops. Please?" He should have refused. He should have told her that he was too busy with work at the auto shop, that he was tired, that he hadn't set foot in that house since the day they buried Darren. But something in her voice, something desperate or rehearsed, he couldn't tell made him say yes. Now, standing in front of the house, Lauren's keys in his hand, he wondered if this was just about the dog at all. The front door opened with a soft click, and the faint scent of citrus cleaner greeted him. The living room was a page from a magazine. Symmetrical pillows, perfectly stacked books, a minimalist painting over the mantel. None of it looked lived in. It was all for show, Eli thought, just like Lauren herself. He set his bag down and called for Benny. The old beagle shuffled in from the sunroom, his tail thumping against the wall. His muzzle was white, and his walk was slower now, but his brown eyes were as gentle as ever. "Hey there, buddy," Eli said, kneeling to rub Benny's head. "You holding down the fort?" Benny gave a soft, appreciative whine and nudged Eli's hand until he relented with more scratches. In the kitchen, a note in Lauren's looping script was taped to the fridge. "Feed Benny at 7:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. Refill water bowl daily. He can go in the backyard for 15 minutes after eating, but don't let him off-leash. The fence is loose by the maple tree." Eli followed the instructions, finding the dog food in a labeled bin, the bowl already spotless. He set the food down and watched Benny eat with slow, careful bites. It was quiet, too quiet. Eli wandered through the rooms, glancing at the decor. Framed family photos still lined the hallway, but if you looked closely, you saw what was missing. Darren's laughter, Milo's shy smile, the way Lauren's eyes never quite met the camera's lens. He ended up in the den, where Darren used to keep his guitars. The music stand was gone. The walls had been painted a cold gray, and in the place where Darren's favorite records had once stood, there were now a stack of home design magazines. Eli sighed. He felt like a trespasser in a place that used to be filled with warmth. After dinner pizza reheated in the spotless microwave, Eli took Benny out to the backyard. The night was cool, and the moon hung low, illuminating the swing set Milo had outgrown 2 years ago. Eli watched the beagle sniff along the fence, stopping every so often to check on a particularly interesting smell. When they returned inside, Eli double-checked the locks. Old habits, he supposed. He'd never been comfortable in this house, especially since Darren's accident. Officially, it was called an accident. Careful Darren, had fallen down the stairs late one rainy night, but Eli had never believed it. Darren hated heights. He'd never even changed a light bulb on a stepladder. He tried to sleep in the guest room, but the silence was too much. Every creak of the house sounded like a whisper. He lay awake, staring at the shadows playing across the ceiling, remembering Darren's funeral, Lauren in black, Milo silent, the whole town whispering about tragedy and freak accidents. Sometime after midnight, a sound jolted him upright. It was a faint, scraping rhythmic, insistent. Not the old pipes, not the wind. Eli listened, heart racing, until he heard it again. It was coming from upstairs. Benny had heard it too. The beagle stood at the bottom of the stairs, hackles raised. Eli's hand trembled as he climbed the steps, the noise getting louder. He checked the master bedroom empty. The guest, bath nothing. At the end of the hall, behind a storage closet, was a door he'd never noticed before. The scraping stopped. He tried the knob. Locked. Eli fumbled through Lauren's key ring, heart thudding, until a small brass key finally fit. The door swung open on old hinges, revealing a small, windowless room. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of sweat and fear. On the mattress, half covered by a tangle of sheets, was Milo. His skin was pale, his cheeks hollow. Dark bruises dotted his arms and neck, and his hair was matted to his forehead. "Milo," Eli's voice cracked. The boy's eyes fluttered open, glassy with confusion. He tried to speak, but his lips were dry and cracked. Eli crouched beside him, pressing trembling fingers to Milo's neck. His pulse was weak, but present. "Oh God, Milo, it's okay, I'm here, you're safe now," Eli whispered, already dialing 911 with shaking hands. 15-year-old male, unresponsive, possibly abused, Briar Lane, please. Hurry us, he's breathing, but he's not waking up. As Eli waited, he checked the room. There was a water bottle, nearly empty, and an old lunchbox with the remains of a sandwich. No windows, no light except for a dim bulb overhead. He ran back to the kitchen for a towel, water, anything, praying the ambulance would get there in time. He kept talking to Milo, trying to keep him awake. The paramedics arrived in a flurry of noise and calm professionalism. They checked Milo's vitals, started oxygen, and loaded him onto a stretcher. A police officer, a woman with tired eyes, asked Eli what had happened. "I came to feed the dog. I found the door locked. I heard a noise. And where's Lauren? She's at a spa in Crescent Springs. She left this morning." As the paramedics wheeled Milo out, Benny whimpered at Eli's side. The officer handed Eli a card. "We'll need you to come down to the station and give a statement. Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" Eli shook his head, numb. "I'll be at my apartment, please. Can you let me know how Milo is?" She nodded, softer now. "We'll do our best, Mr. Conrad." He locked up the house, heart pounding, and took Benny home with him. He sat on the couch, dog curled at his feet, as the enormity of what he'd found settled in. Lauren's text lit up his phone again. "Thanks for looking after Benny. Hope the house isn't too creepy at night." Eli stared at the screen, bile rising in his throat. He deleted the message, then lay back and stared at the ceiling, knowing nothing would ever be the same again. Eli Conrad woke with a start, his phone buzzing insistently against the coffee table. It was still dark outside, the city of Camden barely beginning to stir. Benny was snoring at his feet, undisturbed by the world's troubles. But Eli felt like the world had shifted under his feet. The events of last night replayed in his mind in fractured flashes: Milo's bruised arms, the panic of calling 911, the cold, windowless room with its sense of suffocating silence. The caller ID read, "Camden Police Department." Eli hesitated, then answered, his voice raw from lack of sleep. "Mr. Conrad, this is Detective Liz Barnett. I'd like you to come to the station this morning to discuss what happened at your cousin's house." Eli rubbed his eyes, searching for clarity. "How's Milo?" "He's stable. Awake and talking. But there are questions we need answered, and it would be best if you came in as soon as possible." "I'll be there," Eli replied, his mind already racing through everything he'd seen. He glanced at Benny, still sleeping, and for a brief moment envied the dog's ignorance. With a heavy sigh, he gathered his things and headed out, his breath frosting in the early morning air. At the station, the waiting area was all fluorescent lights and the faint aroma of burned coffee. Detective Barnett met him, a compact woman in her early 40s, with storm gray eyes and a manner that demanded straight answers. They settled into a small, windowless room. Barnett set a digital recorder on the table and slid Eli a cup of coffee. "Start from the beginning," she said, "and don't leave anything out." Eli recounted everything: the awkward visit from Lauren, the instructions to care for Benny, the late-night noises, the discovery of the locked room, Milo's condition. Barnett listened intently, occasionally jotting notes. "Lauren said she'd be gone 3 days?" "Yes. She's at a spa in Crescent Springs." "And you haven't spoken to her since she left?" "Just a text, thanking me for watching the dog. Nothing about Milo." Barnett's eyes narrowed slightly. "Had you noticed anything unusual about Milo before last night? Any signs of neglect or abuse?" Eli hesitated. The truth was, He hadn't seen Milo much since Darren's funeral. The boy had always been shy, more comfortable behind a book or a video game than talking with adults. After Darren's death, Lauren had become distant, turning down family invitations, rarely bringing Milo to gatherings. He's always been quiet, Eli admitted. Withdrawn, maybe, but I thought he was just grieving. I should have checked on him more. Barnett nodded, her face unreadable. Did you see any medication? Empty bottles? Anything like that in the room? No, Eli said, remembering the half-empty water bottle in the sandwich. Just some food and water. All right. Barnett leaned back. We're running toxicology tests. Milo's statements suggest he may have been given something to keep him docile. He says his mother locked him in as a punishment for disobeying. Eli felt a cold rush of anger. Punishment? For what? He wouldn't say. He's protecting her. Barnett's gaze softened. That's common. Victims, especially kids, often shield their abuser, Evan, if it puts themselves at risk. The words rang in Eli's ears. He thought back to his own childhood, to how Darren had always looked out for him. The idea that Lauren could hurt her own son was hard to process, but he couldn't ignore the evidence. The bruises, the fear, the isolation. Where's Lauren now? Eli asked. We're trying to locate her. She checked out of the spa last night according to their records, but hasn't returned any calls. Her phone's off. Do you know of any friends or relatives she might stay with? Eli shook his head. Not really. She always kept to herself, even before Darren died. Barnett nodded and gathered her notes. We may need to search the house further. For now, you're free to go. But stay in town. And if you hear from Lauren anything at all, let me know immediately. Eli left the station feeling numb, his mind spiraling with guilt and suspicion. Outside, the sun had risen fully, painting the city in harsh morning light. He wandered the streets, memories of the past crowding in with every step. He remembered his first meeting with Lauren at Darren's engagement party, a decade earlier. She'd seemed so different then, lively, engaging, full of ideas about the future. Darren had been smitten, bragging about her to anyone who'd listen. She's brilliant, Eli. She gets me in ways no one else ever has. Back then, Eli had been happy for Darren. He'd even toasted the couple, wishing them every happiness, never suspecting that beneath Lauren's charm lay something brittle and dangerous. In the years that followed, Darren and Lauren's marriage had seemed happy on the surface. But Eli recalled moments at family gatherings when Darren looked exhausted, when Lauren's laughter seemed a little too loud, a little too forced. There were rumors, whispered late at night after the kids were asleep. Arguments behind closed doors. Darren's sudden withdrawal from his old friends. And then Darren's death. Officially an accidenta, tragic misstep on the staircase. But Eli had seen the bruises, the tension in Lauren's jaw, the way she'd orchestrated every detail of the funeral with clinical precision. He'd tried to voice his concerns to his parents, to the police, but no one wanted to believe him. Let the dead rest, Eli, his mother had said, tired and grief-stricken. Don't make trouble for Lauren. She's suffered enough. But Eli couldn't let it go. Not now, with Milo lying in a hospital bed, afraid and alone. He stopped at a coffee shop, needing something to anchor himself. The television above the counter played the local news. Police continue to investigate allegations of child neglect at a prominent Briar Lane address. No arrests have been made, but authorities are urging anyone with information to come forward. A waitress set his coffee down gently. Rough morning? She asked. Eli managed a tired smile. You could say that. He sipped his coffee, staring out the window, mind awash with questions. Where was Lauren now? Was she running from guilt or planning her next move? And why hadn't anyone seen the signs sooner? As he sat there, his phone vibrated a blocked number. Cautiously, he answered. Eli, it's Lauren. Her voice was low, tense, stripped of its usual warmth. I need you to listen. Don't talk, just listen. I didn't mean for things to get this bad. Milo was acting out, and I lost control. I'm sorry. Please, don't let them take him away. He needs his mother. Tell them it was an accident, please. Eli gripped the phone, anger boiling in his veins. Where are you, Lauren? You need to turn yourself in. Milo's in the hospital. He could have died. A choked sob echoed through the line. You don't understand. I can't go to jail. Please, Eli. Promise me. Promise you'll help me. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of old loyalties and fresh betrayals. I'll do what's right for Milo. That's all I can promise. The call ended with a click, leaving Eli with more questions than answers. He finished his coffee, determination hardening in his chest. He would protect Milo no matter what it cost. Outside, the city moved on, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath its surface. But Eli Conrad knew this was just the beginning. The ghosts of Briar Lane had awakened, and he was the only one willing to face them. Eli Conrad's footsteps echoed in the marble hallway of Camden General Hospital. Every step was heavy, echoing with old guilt and the burden of family secrets. He'd stopped by the hospital not just out of duty, but a sense of longing for closure, for atonement, for hope that Milo would recover. He passed the pediatric nurse's station, where a nurse with kind eyes recognized him and nodded in silent greeting. He paused at the doorway to Milo's room. The boy was sitting up in bed, staring listlessly out the window, his small hands gripping the hospital blanket. He looked so much like Darren at that age-thin, dark hair curling over his forehead, haunted eyes. Eli's chest tightened. "Hey, kiddo," Eli said gently, stepping inside. Milo turned his head, a flicker of recognition in his tired eyes. "Hi, Uncle Eli." Eli took a seat by the bed. "How are you feeling?" Milo shrugged. "Okay, I guess. They said I have to stay here for a while." Eli tried to smile, but his heart ached. "That's just until you're better. They want to make sure you're safe." Milo looked away, his voice barely a whisper. "Am I in trouble?" Eli shook his head. "No, Milo. None of this is your fault. You hear me?" He placed a reassuring hand on Milo's arm, feeling the boy tremble. "You're safe now." For a moment, silence hung between them, heavy with things unsaid. Finally, Milo spoke again, voice strained. "Is Mom mad at me?" Eli's throat tightened. "Your mom. She's not here right now. The police want to talk to her, but I'm here, and so are the doctors and nurses. You're not alone." The boy nodded, but his face was shuttered, as if he were bracing for another blow. Eli wondered how long Milo had lived, in fear how long the secrets in this family had festered, unchecked. A knock on the door interrupted them. Detective Barnett entered, clipboard in hand. "Sorry to intrude, Mr. Conrad. Milo, can I ask you a few questions?" Her tone was gentle but firm, practiced from years of talking to children in distress. Milo looked at Eli, searching his face. Eli nodded encouragement. "It's okay, buddy. Just tell the truth." Barnett sat on the edge of the bed, lowering herself to Milo's level. "Milo, do you remember what happened before you came here?" Milo's hands twisted the blanket. "Mom said I had to stay in my room. She said I was bad, that I ruined things." "What did you do?" Barnett prompted softly. I told her I wanted to see Dad. I kept asking about him. She got angry. Tears welled up in Milo's eyes. She locked the door and left me there. I was hungry. She gave me something to drink, but it made me so tired." Barnett nodded, taking notes. "Thank you, Milo. That helps a lot." She stood, her eyes meeting Eli's with silent understanding. Outside the room, she said quietly, "He's opening up, but it'll take time. Trauma like this, it doesn't heal overnight." Eli nodded. "Do you have any leads on Lauren?" Barnett shook her head. "Nothing concrete. Her phone's off, credit cards inactive. We're monitoring airports and bus stations. She could be anywhere." She paused, lowering her voice. "Was there ever anything odd between Darren and Lauren before Darren's death?" Eli hesitated. "They argued sometimes. Darren withdrew, stopped calling as often. I asked him once if things were okay. He just smiled and said Lauren got stressed easily. That's all." Barnett made a note. "We'll be exhuming Darren's body. I can't say more, but if Lauren's capable of doing this to Milo, we have to consider everything." Eli felt as if the floor had dropped out beneath him. "You think Darren's death wasn't an accident?" Barnett's gaze was steely. "I think families hide things, sometimes for years. I need you to be honest with me, Eli. If you remember anything at all, now's the time." Eli nodded, his mind swirling with old doubts and half-buried fears. He left the hospital in a daze, sunlight blinding after the dim hospital corridors. He wandered the streets of Camden, memories washing over him. Darren as a child, laughing in their backyard, showing off a frog he'd caught. Darren at his wedding, nervous and in love. Darren, just months before his death, sitting on Eli's porch late at night. "I feel trapped, Eli," Darren had confessed, swirling a glass of whiskey. "Like I'm drowning in my own life. Lauren's not happy, I'm not happy. But Milo, I can't leave him." Eli had tried to reassure him. "Things will get better, Darren. Just hang on. You've always pulled through before." But now, with everything unraveling, Eli wondered if he'd failed his broth or if he'd missed the signs, or worse, ignored them. He found himself outside Darren's old house, the scene of so much pain. Police tape still fluttered across the front door, and a squad car sat in the driveway. Eli hesitated, then walked up to the officer on duty. "I'm Eli Conrad. I used to live here with my brother. Can I look around just for a minute?" The officer checked his notes, then nodded. "Stay in the living room, please. The detectives are still processing the rest of the house." Eli stepped inside, the familiar scent of wood polish and old books almost overwhelming. The house was eerily silent, stripped of its former warmth. He wandered the living room, picking up a photograph, Darren, Lauren, Milo at the beach, all forced smiles. He heard a rustling from the hallway and turned to see a woman he didn't recognize. A neighbor, perhaps, or a social worker. She studied him for a moment, then introduced herself. "I'm Dr. Samantha Chen, child psychologist. I'm working with the police to evaluate Milo's situation." She paused, eyeing Eli curiously. "You're his uncle?" Eli nodded. "I'm glad Milo has someone," Chen said. "He's going to need support, familiar faces, routine. The state will recommend temporary guardianship until his mother is found, and the investigation is complete. Are you prepared for that responsibility?" Eli swallowed. "If it comes to that, yes. I won't let him go into foster care." Chen smiled, relieved. "Good. He trusts you. That means everything." That evening, Eli sat in his apartment, staring at the city lights outside the window. He called his parents, updating them on Milo's condition, glossing over the worst details for their sake. His mother wept. His father was stoic, but Eli heard the tremor in his voice. "He needs you, Eli," his father said quietly. "Don't let him down." End quote. "I won't," Eli promised. His phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. "You should mind your own business, Eli. Some secrets are better left buried." Eli felt a chill run through him. Was it Lauren? Or someone else trying to warn him off? He thought of the web of secrets, lies, and old wounds stretching back years. He realized, with sudden clarity, that the story wasn't just about Milo's suffering or Darren's mysterious death. It was about the choices a family makes, what they hide, what they ignore, and what they are finally willing to face. He poured himself a drink, gaze lingering on a photo of him and Darren as children, grinning in the sunlight. For the first time in years, Eli felt a sense of purpose cutting through his doubt. He would protect Milo. He would uncover the truth about Darren. And he would not be intimidated into silence by Lauren, not by anyone. The city's hum continued outside, but inside Eli's apartment, a battle was brewing, one that would decide the future of his family and the fate of all the ghosts hidden beneath the surface of Briar Lane. The city rain fell in sheets as Eli Conrad made his way back to the old house the following morning. He had barely slept a few hours, haunted by nightmares of Darren's face, of Milo's hollow eyes, of Lauren's cold voice whispering threats. Dawn crept into Camden with little fanfare, the sky low and gray, but Eli felt the heaviness of the coming day. Detective Barnett was already there, standing on the porch in a raincoat, coffee steaming in her hand. She nodded at Eli as he approached. "I figured you'd come back," she said quietly. "People always return to the scene, not just suspects. Family, too. Looking for answers." Eli tucked his hands in his pockets. "Did you find anything last night?" Barnett's jaw tightened. "We found Lauren's laptop hidden in a vent behind the master bedroom. She wiped most of it, but our techs recovered some emails drafts never sent. She wrote to someone named R, kept asking if it was time to finish things, and if the insurance would clear soon." Eli felt his stomach drop. "She was planning this." Barnett's eyes narrowed. "We don't know everything yet, but it looks bad. Also," she handed Eli a small plastic bag. Inside was a battered silver locket. "We found this in the crawlspace under Milo's room." Eli opened the locket with trembling hands. Inside was a photo, Darren and Milo on one side, Lauren on the other. Scratched into the metal were 3 initials, D, L, and a third, A. He frowned. "Who's A?" Barnett asked. Eli shook his head, confused. "I don't know. Not anyone in the family that I remember." Barnett glanced at her notes. "We'll keep digging." As Eli stood in the foyer, an old memory surfaced. A summer evening, years ago. Darren had arrived at Eli's apartment, drunk, eyes wild. "She wants me gone, Eli," Darren whispered, voice ragged. "She says she can't breathe, that she made a mistake. But she doesn't mean divorce-ish, means something else. I see it in her eyes." Eli had tried to reason with him then, but the dread he'd felt that night returned full force. He moved to Milo's old bedroom, careful to avoid the police markers. The room was small, Posters still on the wall say faded superhero, a smiling astronaut. The closet door hung open, empty save for a few shirts on the floor. On the desk sat a drawing Milo had started but never finished. A stick-figure family, the father half erased, the mother looming large. Eli's phone vibrated. A new text from the same unknown number as before. "Stop looking, Eli, or everyone will know what Darren did." His blood ran cold. He forwarded the message to Detective Barnett, who appeared in the doorway a moment later. "Whoever this is, they want me out of this," Eli said, voice tight. Barnett's face was set, determined. "They won't scare you off, and they won't scare me either. But be careful. If Lauren's not alone, this could get uglier." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "Do you know who R is? Anyone Darren or Lauren might have known?" Eli racked his brain, searching old memories, neighbors, co-workers, friends from college. R. No one comes to mind. Maybe a lawyer? An insurance agent? "We'll subpoena records," Barnett said, scribbling a note. "But if you think of anything, tell me immediately. This is getting complicated." That afternoon, Eli met with Dr. Chen at the hospital again. Milo was still recovering, quiet, withdrawn, but eating better. As Eli entered, Milo looked up, a question in his eyes. "Uncle Eli, is Mom coming back?" Eli sat beside him. "I don't know, Milo. The police are trying to find her." Milo nodded slowly. "If she comes, will she be mad at you?" Eli took his hand. "It doesn't matter if she's mad at me. What matters is you're safe. And I promise, you won't go back until we know the truth." Milo squeezed his hand, a small gesture of trust. Dr. Chen joined them. "Milo's agreed to talk with me," she said, "but it'll take time. He's scared, Eli. Not just of Lornoff, what comes next." Eli nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. As Chen led Milo away for their session, Detective Barnett called. "We got a break," she said. "Financial records show Lauren withdrew $10,000 cash from an ATM downtown 2 days ago. And get this, she used her own car. We pulled security footage. She wasn't alone." Eli's heart pounded. "Who was with her?" Barnett hesitated. "A woman mid-30s, short dark hair. Our facial rec system flagged her as Amanda Reyes. She's got a record fraud, identity theft. Last known address was 2 towns over." Eli's mind raced. A. The initial in the locket. Exactly. Amanda and Lauren met when Darren was in rehab years ago. We found texts Amanda owed Lauren money. Looks like Lauren called in the debt. Eli realized with sudden clarity that Lauren's plan had never been hers alone. She'd recruited Amanda, someone with nothing to lose. Barnett continued. "We're tracking Amanda now. She's got family in Pennsylvania. Maybe Lauren's headed there." Eli gripped the phone. "I want to help." "Stay with Milo," Barnett said. "He needs you. But keep your phone close. We might need you to identify Lauren or Amanda if we get them on camera." Eli promised, hanging up with his mind buzzing. He felt the story widening, more layers, more secrets. The truth was almost within reach, but so was danger. That night, Eli barely slept. He kept replaying his last conversation with Darren, how his brother had sounded so tired, so hopeless. Had Darren known he was being watched? That Lauren was plotting? Eli turned to an old box of Darren's things, rescued from the house after the funeral. Letters, receipts, and a battered journal. He flipped through the pages, Darren's neat handwriting chronicling frustrations with work, marriage, parenthood. But one entry stood out, dated a month before Darren died. "Lauren's been seeing Amanda again. Says she needs help with paperwork. I don't trust Amanda. She keeps asking about my life insurance. I told Lauren I changed the policy, but she got angry. I keep thinking I'm overreacting, but every night I hear them whispering downstairs." Eli snapped a photo of the entry, sending it to Barnett with a single message. Proof Amanda was involved. At sunrise, Eli went to the hospital cafeteria, sitting by a window overlooking the parking lot. Rain still tapped the glass, relentless. He saw his own reflection, exhausted, unshaven, eyes lined with worry. He called his parents, updating them again, and told them about Amanda. His mother cried. How could Lauren do this? Darren trusted her. He loved her. "I know," Eli whispered, voice thick, "but we'll get justice. For Darren, for Milo." As he returned to Milo's room, Dr. Chen met him outside. "Milo's making progress," she said, voice soft. "He wants to go home with you, Eli. He feels safe with you. I'm recommending to the state that you get temporary custody until this is over." Eli nodded, relief and fear warring in his chest. "Thank you. I'll do anything for him. As Chen walked away, Eli stepped into the room, seeing Milo asleep, peaceful at last. Eli sat beside him, brushing hair from the boy's forehead. The storm was not over, but for the first time, Eli felt a fragile hope like the first light after a long night. He looked out the window, rain blurring the city lights, and made a silent promise. He would finish what Darren started. He would expose the truth, and he would keep Milo safe, whatever it took. Eli Conrad woke at dawn to the soft sound of rain against his window, but it was a sharp knock at the hospital room door that fully snapped him from uneasy sleep. He glanced at Milo, still curled beneath the thin blanket, chest rising and falling with the gentle rhythm of a child who had not known true peace in months. Dr. Chen opened the door quietly. "Sorry to wake you, Eli. Detective Barnett is here. There's been a development." Eli nodded, gathering himself. Every day seemed to bring some new fragment of disaster. He followed Dr. Chen down the hall, nerves coiling tighter with each step. Detective Barnett was waiting in the hospital cafeteria, her raincoat still damp, her eyes sharper than Eli had ever seen. She didn't waste words. "We have Lauren's car on camera near a motel outside of Wilkes Barre, Pennsylvania," she began. Amanda Reyes checked in under her own name. The clerk saw a woman matching Lauren's description with her. Eli felt a surge of adrenaline, part fear, part hope. "Do you think they're running?" Barnett nodded. "Yes, and they're getting desperate." Lauren withdrew almost all her savings. "She's buying time, not planning for the future. We think they're waiting for a fake passport, planning to leave the country." Eli felt the enormity of it crash down how far Lauren would go to erase her tracks. He rubbed his eyes, struggling to process it all. Barnett's phone buzzed. She glanced down and tensed. They just tried to use a credit card at a gas station on Route 6. Uniformed officers are in pursuit. Eli's heart hammered. "If you catch them, will Lauren talk?" Barnett's face softened. "She might, but I need you to understand people like Lauren. Once they start lying, they can't stop. She'll blame Amanda, say she was manipulated. Maybe she'll even try to blame you or Milo. You need to be prepared for that." Eli felt a chill. "I just want Milo safe. I want the truth to come out." Barnett put a steadying hand on his arm. "We're close, Eli, but it's not over yet." Hours crawled by with excruciating slowness. Eli spent them pacing the hospital hallways, talking to lawyers and social workers, updating his parents, who remained shattered by every new revelation. He watched Milo draw with markers on the hospital's coloring sheets, mostly quiet, sometimes pausing to look at Eli as if seeking assurance that the world outside these walls was real. At noon, the call came. Barnett's voice was low, vibrating with adrenaline. They ran. State troopers set up a roadblock. Amanda tried to crash through. Lauren panicked and fled on foot, but she didn't get far. "She's in custody. Amanda's injured but alive. I need you to come down to the station to make a formal statement." Eli's hands shook as he hung up. He kissed Milo's forehead, promising to be back soon, and made his way through the rain-soaked city toward the police station, mind spinning with dread and anticipation. At the precinct, the corridors buzzed with tension. Eli found Detective Barnett in an interview room, papers and evidence bags covering the table. She greeted him with a tired smile. "Lauren's already started spinning her story. She says you and Darren were planning to take Milo away from her, that you're obsessed, that you staged everything to frame her." Eli stared in disbelief. "That's insane." Barnett nodded. "We know, but she's good at twisting facts. That's why we need your statement, every detail, every memory, even the hard ones. This is the moment to get it all on the record." Eli took a deep breath and began. About the phone calls, the threatening texts, the times he saw Lauren and Amanda together, Darren's journal, even the locket. Each word felt like a weight lifted, like giving shape to the nightmare that had haunted their lives. Barnett listened, jotting notes, prompting gently but never pushing too far. When Eli finished, she slid over a printout Amanda's initial statement. "Amanda's ready to talk," Barnett said. "She's angry. Says Lauren promised her a new identity, a fresh start, but then tried to abandon her. Amanda claims Lauren planned everything. She was the one who convinced Darren to change his will, the one who knew about the insurance. Amanda helped, but Lauren orchestrated it." Eli's chest tightened. "Will Amanda testify?" "She'll have to. It's her best shot at a deal." Eli ran a hand through his hair, exhausted. "And Lauren?" Barnett's expression was unreadable. "She won't go down quietly. She says you're a threat. She wants Milo placed in state custody, says you're not stable." Eli clenched his fists, fury welling up. I've done everything to keep him safe. I know, Barnett softened. But these things take time. The courts will review everything. Social services, the therapist's reports, your own background. Eli tried to steady his breathing. What about Milo? Will I lose him? Barnett hesitated. There'll be hearings. Lauren's lies will be exposed. But until then, it's going to be hard. You need to be strong for Milo. When Eli returned to the hospital, Milo was asleep, a gentle snore rising from his pillow. Dr. Chen waited outside, her face gentle but serious. Eli, you need to prepare him for the possibility of interviews, maybe even a court appearance. It won't be easy, but he needs to know you're by his side. Eli nodded, feeling the weight anew. He sat beside Milo's bed and waited for the boy to wake, promising himself he would never let Milo face any of this alone. As dusk fell, his phone buzzed with another unknown number message, short and sharp. You may have won this round, but you're not done. The truth is bigger than you think. Eli showed it to Barnett the next morning. She frowned, tracing the sender. It was sent from a burner phone. Maybe a warning, maybe a threat, or maybe there are more people involved than we realized. For the first time, Eli wondered if Lauren and Amanda were just one piece of a larger puzzle life. The darkness that had swallowed Darren's family ran even deeper. 2 days later, Lauren appeared before a judge, her face pale but defiant. Eli sat behind the prosecutor, heart in his throat. Milo waited in a quiet room with Dr. Chen and a social worker, too young to understand the machinery of justice grinding into motion. The hearing was brief. Lauren was denied bail. Amanda, bandaged and sullen, stared at the floor, her fate tied to Lauren's. Outside the courthouse, the rain had finally stopped. Eli stood under a patch of watery sunlight, breathing in the damp air. Barnett joined him, hands in her pockets. This isn't the end, she said. Trials take time, but the evidence is strong, and you have allies Milo, Dr. Chen, Amanda's testimony. We'll get there. Eli looked at the sky, the first blue he'd seen in weeks. Thank you, he said softly. Barnett smiled, tired but resolute. We protect our own, Eli. Don't forget that. He nodded, feeling a fragile hope bloom. For the first time, he believed the storm was breaking. But deep inside, he knew the scars would linger, that trust was slow to rebuild, and healing never came overnight. Yet as he walked back to the hospital, and Milo's waiting arms, Eli Conrad understood the meaning of family had changed forever. Not just blood, but the love you fight for, no matter what shadows you face. The courthouse was packed press, social workers, attorneys, and a few scattered faces Eli recognized from the neighborhood. Even Milo's old-school principal sat quietly in the back, as if the entire community had gathered to witness the last act of a tragedy that had stretched across too many lives. Eli hadn't slept much the night before. He'd lain awake watching Milo turn restlessly in the hospital cot, tracing the soft rise and fall of his son's breathing, silently vowing to be the father Darren never got to be. That morning, Milo was dressed in a new blue sweater, his hair carefully combed by Dr. Chen, who insisted on accompanying them to the courthouse for moral support. Lauren and Amanda were led in separately. Lauren still wore her expensive Kother armor against a world she could no longer control. Amanda, thinner, bruised, eyes haunted, seemed to shrink beneath the gaze of so many strangers. Judge Perkins called the session to order. He was a man of few words, with a reputation for slicing through drama and delay. The state's attorney began with a summary: insurance fraud, child endangerment, conspiracy, emotional abuse. As the list grew longer, Eli felt a strange numbness, as if each accusation dulled the pain that had stalked his family for months. Testimony began. Amanda Reyes was the first to take the stand, hands shaking. She recounted the years of manipulation, the whispered plans, the way Lauren had always spoken of starting over, once Milo was safe and out of the way. She described how Lauren had convinced her Darren was unstable, how they'd faked emails and fabricated medical records, slowly isolating Milo from everyone who cared. She told me Darren was a danger, Amanda's voice broke, but she lied. She wanted Milo out of the picture, to make the inheritance easier. I did what she said because I thought I loved her. But she didn't love anyone. She only needed accomplices. The courtroom was silent. The defense attorney tried to paint Amanda as a jealous ex, but the weight of her confession, the evidence recovered from Lauren's laptop, and Amanda's willingness to accept a plea deal made her story hard to dismiss. Then came the hardest moment. Milo, small and quiet, led into the witness room with Dr. Chen by his side, and a social worker guiding his steps. The court allowed Milo to testify by video link, reducing the trauma. Eli watched his son on a large screen, heart pounding. Milo looked down at his hands, then up at the judge. "My mom said I had to stay in the room," he whispered. "She said Uncle Eli was bad. But Uncle Eli brought me breakfast and read me stories and told me he loved me every day. I was scared all the time, but not when I was with him." Judge Perkins leaned forward. "And how do you feel now, Milo?" "I want to live with Uncle Eli. I feel safe with him." There were tears in the eyes of more than one person in the room. Detective Barnett presented the last evidence. Lauren's financial transactions, emails, text messages, arranging the fake medical appointments. Then she played Amanda's recorded confession and Lauren's own voice, caught on security cameras, discussing how to disappear without a trace. The defense tried desperately to twist the facts, but Lauren's composure cracked. At one point, she leapt to her feet, shouting at Amanda, calling her a traitor, a liar. The judge had her removed from the room until she regained control. Eli's attorney, a steady, soft-spoken woman named Marissa Vaughn, closed the state's case with words that would stay with Eli forever. "Family is not just who you're born to. It's the people who fight for your safety, your future, your right to be loved." Eli Conrad fought every day, through every lie and threat, to give Milo that future. The court has the power to end this cycle of harm, to give this boy what he deserves: peace, love, and a home. The verdict. After 2 grueling days, the judge called everyone back for his decision. The room was tense, every breath held. Judge Perkins addressed the court. "This is not a case about simple misfortune or misunderstanding. It is a case about betrayal, about adults who failed in their most sacred duty to protect a child. But it is also a story of resilience. Mr. Conrad, your commitment to Milo's well-being, your willingness to expose painful truths, has not gone unnoticed." He turned to Lauren, whose expression was vacant, lips trembling. "Miss Spencer, your actions were calculated and cruel. You prioritized your own ambition over the safety and happiness of your son. For this, the law will hold you accountable." He faced Amanda, whose head was bowed. "Miss Reyes, your confession and cooperation do not erase your crimes, but they have spared this child further suffering. The court will take that into account." Finally, his gaze found Eli. "Mr. Conrad, I award you full legal and physical custody of Milo Conrad, effective immediately. The court recommends ongoing counseling for Milo and for yourself, but I believe this is the home where he will finally know safety and love." The gavel struck. The sound seemed to echo through Eli's chest, breaking through the storm that had shadowed his life for so long. The months that followed were not easy. Healing, Eli learned, was less a straight line and more a winding path, littered with setbacks and small victories. Milo struggled with nightmares and questions. Some days were full of laughter, others of tears. But Eli, with the support of Dr. Chen and a tight circle of friends, never let Milo face the dark alone. They built new rituals: pancakes on Sundays, long walks through the park, movie nights on the battered old couch Eli inherited from his parents. Amanda, serving a reduced sentence for her cooperation, wrote Milo a letter from prison, a letter apologizing for the pain, urging him to forgive himself for what was never his fault. Milo, after many therapy sessions, wrote back, telling her he hoped she found a way to be a better person. Lauren was sentenced to 20 years. At her sentencing, she offered no apology, only a final, bitter look at Eli as she was led away. Detective Barnett kept in touch, visiting Milo on his 10th birthday with a new soccer ball and a reminder that justice was sometimes slow, but it always arrived. On the first day of spring, Eli took Milo back to the old house, now empty and waiting for a new family. They stood on the porch, sunlight streaming over the battered steps. Milo looked up at him, hand in his. "We're safe now, right, Uncle Eli?" Eli knelt beside him, hugging him tight. "We're safe, and we're home." They walked back to their car as the rain finally stopped, and for the first time, Eli felt that the storm had truly passed. Not forgotten, never that, but left behind. He knew the road ahead would have bumps, but together, they would travel it. They were family, forged not by blood alone, but by love, sacrifice, and the promise to never let go. And sometimes, Eli thought, the hardest journeys lead to the brightest dawns.